The motorhomes market just hit a meltdown, and it's happening faster than anyone expected.
Service records reveal problem after problem with the new RV.
4 million rigs were dumped into the system at once, and now prices are collapsing in real time. Dealers are quietly shoving the worst units to the front of the discount rows, hoping buyers won't notice which motorhomes are tanking the fastest. But here's the part nobody is saying out loud. Some of these rigs are becoming worthless overnight. Structural flaws, hidden failures, and massive depreciation are turning once reliable models into financial landmines. So before you even think about buying, here are the 11 motorhomes you must avoid. Thor Freedom Elite 22 FE. Hidden issues often reveal themselves only when real mileage and real ownership pressure begin exposing weaknesses. This motorhome arrived with the promise of simple ownership, an easy footprint, and a familiar E-Series backbone. Yet the real-world record tells a different and expensive story. The most telling evidence comes from a recent auction sheet, where a unit originally listed near $94,000 hammered for $68,200, a plunge that does not happen without deeper issues, pushing owners to walk away long before they planned. Technicians have documented roof seam lift, early wall separation, and electrical shorts that appear after light seasonal use. One service bulletin from late 2024 described repeated failures traced back to lighter roof laminate, a cost-saving shift that reduced weight but weakened durability. Once moisture finds its way through those seams, soft spots and bubbling panels follow, and the repair path rarely stops at a single visit. The depreciation math becomes obvious. A rig that loses nearly 30% of its value inside a single year will not stabilize until the market finishes flushing excess supply. For someone evaluating this coach today, the lesson is straightforward. Inspect every seam, test every circuit, and confirm that prior owners addressed the known trouble points. If you find waviness along the roof edge or flicker through the interior lighting, those are the telltale signs that push so many of these units into the wholesale lanes. Understand that timing matters, and use the market pressure working in your favor. Sometimes the smartest move is simply waiting for the next price window. Many buyers overlook how smaller construction shortcuts influence long-term ownership costs, especially when the early failures begin stacking across similar units. Once repeated service patterns emerge, market confidence shifts fast and depreciation accelerates before most owners realize the scale of the underlying structural weaknesses. This warning only scratches the surface because the trouble waiting in the next spot cuts deeper. Winnebago Mini Winnie 26T. You can tell when a dependable name starts slipping, and the Winnebago Mini Winnie 26T shows that shift. Plainly, this coach built its following on steady road manners and familiar layouts. Yet recent wholesale numbers reveal a turn owners did not expect. A unit that rolled out near $119,499 surfaced at auction for $86,200, and that spread points to more than normal depreciation. The change began after a wiring update in late 2024. The redesign aimed to simplify harness routing, but it introduced grounding weaknesses that created flickering circuits and refrigerator interruptions. Several service centers reported pulsing cabin lights during highway travel, and technicians uncovered missing or loose grounding points behind central panels. The recall tagged 25V03. Two confirmed the flaw and listed the batches that needed correction. Repairs often required taking apart overhead storage because the harness anchor points sat deep in the frame. Financial impact shows up fast with electrical uncertainty. Once questions form around reliability, values step down and they rarely recover quickly. A model once known for holding steady now appears often in the wholesale lanes, and each appearance lowers the next round of expectations. Anyone considering a Mini Winnie 26T today should take time with the inspection. Turn on every light and watch for dimming. Let the refrigerator run and confirm stable power. Ask for written proof that the grounding repair was completed with updated hardware. When a respected model begins showing strain, careful timing becomes a practical advantage, because letting the market settle can reveal a more stable moment to act right now. As more cases appear, buyers begin reassessing the reputation they assumed was stable. When electrical uncertainty becomes a trend rather than an isolated complaint, the overall value perception shifts, creating a ripple effect that influences auction behavior and future trade-in expectations across the category. If that hit felt sharp, the issue tied to the next entry reveals something even heavier. If this list is already revealing things you were never told at the dealership, take a moment to like the video. Subscribe for more breakdowns like this, and share your own experience in the comments so others can stay informed before making costly decisions. Forest River Forester 2551 DSLE. Trouble inside a motorhome rarely shows itself all at once, and the Forest River Forester 2551 DSLE is a clear example of issues that reveal themselves layer by layer. Owners first noticed something felt off when interior temperatures dropped far below what the furnace should have maintained. During early winter checks, several dealers recorded cabins sitting near 42 degrees, even with the heat running on full cycle. Those readings came from handheld thermometers noted in multiple service logs, and that detail marked the beginning of a wider pattern. Technicians later traced the cold spots to uneven insulation behind the walls and under the flooring. Sections that should have carried thicker material instead showed thin pockets that allowed outside temperatures to creep inward. Once moisture formed, cabinets swelled, and flooring softened. Each repair ticket added another clue, and by the time the wholesale market adjusted, depreciation followed. Units originally priced near $102,300 resurfaced months later, around $74,900. And that drop carried a message the market understood clearly. Anyone examining a Forester 2551 DSLE today should take time to measure temperature variation along the walls and under the storage compartments. Let the furnace run and watch for uneven warmth. Check for early softness beneath the bathroom or kitchen areas, because those spots often react first when insulation underperforms. When repeated cases appear in dealer logs, the pattern usually holds true across similar production runs. Use that knowledge to guide your timing, because clear insight into construction flaws always keeps financial decisions steady and protected. These insulation inconsistencies demonstrate how small production variances can carry long-term financial consequences. Once comfort issues translate into structural impact, the ownership experience changes dramatically, and resale values begin responding to hidden flaws that surface slowly but predictably as more real-world data emerges. Patterns forming here point straight toward the next item, showing a far more telling failure: Forest River FR3 30DS. Some motorhomes show their weaknesses only after a few storms pass over them, and the Forest River FR330DS fits that pattern with uncomfortable accuracy. Owners began reporting stained ceiling panels and shifting wall textures long before the first year ended. Those clues pointed toward water trying to work its way through the roof membrane, and dealer reports soon confirmed what the early signs suggested. Several technicians documented separation along the front cap where the composite bonding should have remained firm. Once that bond weakens, moisture travels quietly, often leaving soft spots and faint discoloration that get worse with every mile. Wholesale values reflected the concern. A coach that entered lots near $139,900 showed up at auction for $101,400. And that gap only widens when the repair history follows the unit. Water intrusion rarely stops at the point where you first notice it. It migrates, and each layer it touches adds cost. Owners who stepped away from these coaches early often mentioned the same sequence: a small stain, a soft corner, then a bigger bill than expected. Anyone looking closely at an FR330DS today should run their hands along the ceiling transitions, check around the front cap, and use a moisture meter if one is available. Look for waves in the interior finish, because those reveal movement behind the panel. When a model develops a pattern of roof separation, patience and timing become valuable tools. Allow the market to settle, examine documentation, and decide only when you have enough evidence that the structure can handle travel. The growing number of water-related claims confirms that the issue extends far beyond isolated incidents. Moisture problems rarely remain contained, and their progression often dictates future repair costs. As evidence spreads, buyers become more cautious, influencing market behavior in ways dealers cannot easily counter. Moisture problems are bad enough, yet the next entry exposes a weakness that spreads faster. Jayco Redhawk 26XD. Problems do not always roar into view. Sometimes they arrive as thin lines along a roof seam or a faint ripple in a ceiling panel. The Jayco Redhawk 26XD has shown that pattern in enough service bays to draw a clear picture. Owners in the hotter parts of the country began reporting early seal lift during the first summer season. At first, it looked like routine wear. Then technicians started finding long stretches of weakened adhesive along the front and rear roof edges, all tied to a change in sealant formula made during late 2024. The intention behind the new material was environmental compliance, but the result left the coach vulnerable under strong heat. Once those seams give way, moisture finds the path of least resistance. Dealers documented small bubbles forming under the interior skin and subtle softening above the cab area. None of it appears dramatic on day one, but each sign hints at a larger problem building quietly behind the finish. Depreciation followed that trail. Units that entered the market near $92,400 settled closer to $71,000 after a single cycle, and that move reflects uncertainty rather than age. Anyone examining a Redhawk 26XD now should study the roofline closely. Look for spots where the sealant appears thin or slightly separated. Inside, press gently along the ceiling corners. If you feel any movement, that could indicate moisture migration. Reliability comes from structure, and structure begins with the materials chosen at the factory. When those materials fall short, the wise approach is simple. Slow down, check the details, and wait for a moment when documentation proves that the weaknesses have been addressed properly. Heat-driven seal failures demonstrate how environmental conditions can magnify design compromises, especially in regions with harsher climates. When protective materials weaken prematurely, long-term durability becomes uncertain, and both owners and dealers face the consequences, as depreciation accelerates far earlier than projected. Roofline strain matters, but the issue hiding in the next slot turns far more costly. Thor Compass AWD. Some motorhomes carry their warning signs under the floor and beneath the engine cover, and the Thor Compass AWD is one of those coaches that reveals its troubles only after the road turns upward. Drivers first noticed hesitation during mild grades, the kind you would expect any modern powertrain to manage without strain. Then, service centers began reporting transmission temperatures climbing past 230 degrees during steady climbs, even when the coach carried only a light load. Those findings appeared in several dealership diagnostic sheets, each one noting the same theme: heat, building faster than the system could shed it. The issue traces back to a platform originally designed for lighter duty. Once the coach structure, tanks, and interior assemblies were added, the powertrain had little margin left. When that margin narrows, torque converter stress rises, and the computer responds by dropping the vehicle into limp protection mode. Owners described sudden loss of power, warning lights illuminating at inconvenient moments, and weekend plans ending with a tow rather than a campsite. The financial effect soon followed. A unit listed near $118,400 began appearing in wholesale lanes around $91,700. A shift driven by confidence, not age. Anyone evaluating a Compass AWD today should allow the engine to warm, take it on a real climb, and watch how the transmission behaves under pressure. If temperatures rise quickly or gear changes feel hesitant, those signs usually appear long before failure. Understanding that this model operates near its mechanical threshold helps guide decisions. When a coach shows strain in ordinary conditions, patience and timing can protect your budget well. The recurring thermal stress reports signal a clear mechanical mismatch between the platform's intended workload and its actual demands. Once enough documented cases accumulate, market sentiment shifts decisively, and even well-maintained examples struggle to retain value under the weight of widespread reliability concerns. Heat strain captured here sets the stage for structural tension that grows unmistakable one tier later. Forest River, Georgetown, GT 534 M5 warning signs around the Forest River, Georgetown, GT 534 M5 surfaced long before most shoppers realized anything was wrong. Early owners reported the steering feeling unsettled during highway travel, drifting just enough to demand constant correction. Technicians investigated and recorded nearly 2 full inches of lateral movement, a measurement that immediately pointed away from alignment issues and toward deeper structural flex. When the frame begins shifting under load, those stresses rarely stay contained. They move upward into areas that should remain firmly bonded. Service bays began seeing the same failure pattern appear across multiple units. Roof membranes in the front section started showing waves and bubbles, and once technicians lifted the material, they found incomplete bonding underneath. These pockets allowed heat and moisture to collect between layers, creating pressure points that gradually pushed back into the interior. Over time, the trapped moisture migrated downward, and owners reported soft flooring around vents, slides, and bathroom corners. Those areas consistently act as moisture catch points, so once the roof layer fails, the deterioration spreads faster than most expect. As these reports accumulated, the financial impact showed up quickly in wholesale markets. A motorhome that entered lots near $155,600 was appearing in auction lanes around $110,000, a drop driven not by age, but by collapsing buyer confidence. When structural drift and roof instability appear in the same model, values fall hard because the underlying issues are expensive to correct and difficult to fully verify. Anyone considering a Georgetown GT534 M5 today should pay close attention to steering behavior at speed, check the roof for any rippling, and press firmly along interior flooring. Frame movement, shown here, hints at mechanical troubles, tightening their grip in the next position. Entegra Odyssey 24B. Some motorhomes fail loudly, but the Entegra Odyssey 24B tends to fail in slow mechanical steps that reveal themselves one uncomfortable moment at a time. Owners first noticed the slide mechanism, hesitating during extension, a slight pause that felt more like a hiccup than a warning. Then reports gathered. Service departments in several states logged grinding noises, uneven tracking, and seals tearing open after light rainfall. The pattern traced back to late 2024 production runs, where weaker slide motors were installed as part of a cost adjustment. Those motors carried lower torque ratings, and under weight, they strained, overheated, and occasionally stalled halfway. Inspection photos attached to dealer repair orders showed metal shavings beneath the slide rails, a clear sign that friction had risen well beyond normal. Once that begins, alignment drifts, seals warp, and moisture finds a path toward the subfloor. A repair invoice from one Midwestern dealer listed $2,175 for parts and labor, and that figure represented a best-case outcome. When moisture damage follows, the total can rise quickly. Wholesale sheets reflected the pressure. A unit originally priced near $96,300 converted to auction numbers around $72,600, a drop shaped by function rather than age. When examining an Odyssey 24B, run the slide fully and listen for hesitation. Check top seals, inspect lower tracks for scoring, and press interior trim for movement. Early strain usually indicates deeper alignment issues, making careful evaluation and patient timing essential for avoiding hidden problems along the way. Slide mechanism strain reveals how cost-saving measures can erode mechanical reliability, especially once components begin operating at the edge of their intended load capacity. As more service reports surface, overall confidence weakens, setting the stage for steeper than expected value drops among recent production cycles. Slide trouble stings, yet the problem tied to the next listing pushes the situation further. Before we move into the final rigs on this list, make sure you subscribe. Each new update helps you stay a step ahead of shifting prices, risky models, and sudden market turns that catch buyers off guard. Staying informed always protects your wallet. Thor Palazzo 33.5. There are motorhomes that fail in small ways, and then there are motorhomes that show structural strain the moment weight and road pressure line up against them. The Thor Palazzo 33.5 falls into that second category, and the evidence has circled through service departments for more than a season now. Owners began reporting unsettling vibrations near the rear axle, something that felt deeper than ordinary road chatter. When technicians inspected the assemblies, they found hairline cracks forming along the welds that brace the rear structure. Those cracks did not appear by accident. They formed because the frame flexed under torque loads, higher than the original support design allowed. As that story repeated, another weakness emerged. Diesel exhaust fluid sensors tied to the emissions system began failing, triggering limp mode warnings at awkward moments. One dealership repair sheet listed a replacement cost of $3,300, while another documented nearly $4,000 once calibration was included. These failures were serious enough that a recall labeled 24E071 was issued to address specific production batches. Depreciation moved quickly, as units once near $228,400 appeared around $185,000, signaling structural and emissions concerns eroding confidence. Inspect rear welds, listen for vibration, and verify updated emissions components, because foundation strain demands patience to protect your long-term budget. These structural and emissions challenges underscore how interconnected systems can magnify stress throughout the entire coach. When foundational weaknesses align with costly technical failures, confidence declines rapidly, and even minor defects become warning signs that influence long-term value trends across the diesel segment. If frame stress raised questions, the issue connected to the next ranking demands sharper attention. Newmar Bay Star, 3014. Some motorhomes lose value because of age, but the Newmar Bay Star 3014 has been slipping for reasons tied directly to decisions made during its production shift. The first signs surfaced when owners began reporting electrical glitches that did not point to failing appliances, but instead to deeper inconsistencies behind the dash. Service departments opened panels and found wiring harnesses with brittle insulation and mismatched connectors, all tracing back to a supplier change implemented during late 2024. That switch saved several $100s per unit, yet it introduced weaknesses that repair technicians recognized instantly. As more coaches returned for rewiring, documented invoices averaged $2,940, and each bill signaled the same problem. Connections that should have locked securely had loosened under vibration. Once those circuits flicker, systems tied to lighting, climate control, and monitoring panels start drifting out of sync. Owners who logged only a few thousand miles noticed functions cutting out without warning, and every repeated failure pushed confidence lower. Wholesale listings reflected mounting pressure as units once priced near $189,600 moved into resale channels around $151,000 within 9 months, showing a depreciation curve unwilling to stabilize. Electrical uncertainty shaped every offer. Anyone evaluating a Bay Star 3014 should inspect harness routing, confirm connector updates, and match components to Bulletin 24N312 because documented repairs protect against escalating costs. Electrical instability often signals deeper production compromises, especially when supplier changes introduce unpredictable variables. As technicians uncover recurring patterns, each documented case amplifies concern, prompting buyers to scrutinize reliability claims more closely and pushing market prices downward long before stabilization becomes possible. Electrical instability signals risk, though the final entry uncovers the most revealing failure in this countdown. Thor ACE 29.2. Some motorhomes promise balance and convenience, yet the Thor ACE 29.2 has shown how quickly that promise can unravel when engineering margins are pushed past their limit. Owners first described a strange heaviness in the steering during longer drives, almost as if the front cap shifted its weight in subtle pulses. When technicians investigated, they found early signs of structural tension where the cap joins the body. Those points are supposed to remain solid under vibration, but service notes revealed that on several units, the bonding weakened, opening the door to the failure that would define this model: front cap separation. One dealership file documented a repair totaling $7,150, a sum driven by labor hours rather than parts. Another technician added photographs showing hairline cracks forming along the upper seam, tiny at first, but enough to let moisture and dust settle where they never should. Once separation begins, alignment drifts, and each mile adds strain to the chassis. The Ford F-Series platform underneath can handle a fair amount, but when a motorhome's added weight sits near the edge of its capacity, even small structural issues grow quickly. Front cap integrity dictates long-term structural reliability, and early signs of tension often foreshadow more extensive chassis stress. as multiple units demonstrate similar failure points. Prospective buyers approach the model cautiously, accelerating depreciation and reshaping expectations across its entire production run. The financial trend followed mechanical failures, with units sliding from $129,900 to $98,500, revealing structural uncertainty. Inspect the front cap, checking seams and cracking, because patience protects decisions whenever structure and weight fall out of alignment. Front cap strain, exposed here, signals deeper balance issues, shaping the conclusion, awaiting your review. If this breakdown helped you spot the rigs worth avoiding, make sure you don't miss the next major update. Drop a comment with your own experiences, hit that like button to support the channel, and don't forget to subscribe so you stay ahead of the market before your next big RV decision. Your feedback helps the entire community make smarter, safer choices out there on the road.